The Grand Canyon is a steep-sided canyon carved by the Colorado River in Arizona, United States. The Grand Canyon is 277 miles, 446 kilometers long, up to 18 miles, 29 kilometers wide, and attains a depth of over a mile, 6,093 feet or 1,857 meters. The canyon and adjacent rim are contained within Grand Canyon National Park, the Kaibab National Forest, Grand Canyon, Parashant National Monument, the Hualapai Indian Reservation, the Havasupai Indian Reservation, and the Navajo Nation. The surrounding area is contained within the Baaj Nwaavjo I'tah Kukveni ancestral footprints of the Grand Canyon National Monument. President Theodore Roosevelt was a major proponent of the preservation of the Grand Canyon area and visited it on numerous occasions to hunt and enjoy the scenery. Nearly 2 billion years of Earth's geological history have been exposed as the Colorado River and its tributaries cut their channels through layer after layer of rock while the Colorado Plateau was uplifted. While some aspects about the history of incision of the canyon are debated by geologists, several recent studies support the hypothesis that the Colorado River established its course through the area about 5 to 6 million years ago. Since that time, the Colorado River has driven the downcutting of the tributaries and retreat of the cliffs, simultaneously deepening and widening the canyon. For thousands of years, the area has been continuously inhabited by Native Americans, who built settlements within the canyon and its many caves. The Pueblo people considered the Grand Canyon a holy site and made pilgrimages to it. The first European known to have viewed the Grand Canyon was Garcia Lopez de Cardenas from Spain, who arrived in 1540. Geography. The Grand Canyon is a river valley in the Colorado Plateau that exposes uplifted Proterozoic and Paleozoic strata, and it is also one of the 6 distinct physiographic sections of the Colorado Plateau province. Even though it is not the deepest canyon in the world, Kali Gandaki Gorge in Nepal is much deeper. The Grand Canyon is known for its visually overwhelming size and its intricate and colorful landscape. Geologically, it is significant because of the thick sequence of ancient rocks that are well preserved and exposed in the walls of the canyon. These rock layers record much of the early geologic history of the North American continent. Uplift associated with mountain formation later moved these sediments thousands of feet upward and created the Colorado Plateau. The higher elevation has also resulted in greater precipitation in the Colorado River drainage area, but not enough to change the Grand Canyon area from being semi-arid. The uplift of the Colorado Plateau is uneven, and the Kaibab Plateau that the Grand Canyon bisects is over 1,000 feet higher at the north rim than at the south rim. Almost all runoff from the north rim, which also gets more rain and snow, flows toward the Grand Canyon, while much of the runoff on the plateau behind the south rim flows away from the canyon following the general tilt. The result is deeper and longer tributary washes and canyons on the north side and shorter and steeper side canyons on the south side. Temperatures on the north rim are generally lower than those on the south rim because of the greater elevation, averaging 8,000 feet or 2,400 meters above sea level. Heavy rains are common on both rims during the summer months. Access to the north rim via the primary route leading to the canyon, State Route 67, is limited during the winter season due to road closures. Geology. The Grand Canyon is part of the Colorado River Basin, which has developed over the past 70 million years. Over more than 150 years, scientists have gathered data, proposed new ideas, and debated sometimes contentious theories about the geologic origins of the Grand Canyon and the Colorado River. Formation of the Grand Canyon and the Colorado River may involve a complex history in which multiple factors and geologic processes have interacted over time and in different locations. In the most recent round of Old River versus Young River controversy, researchers have challenged estimates that had placed the age of the canyon at 5-6 million years. The research has aroused considerable controversy because it suggests a substantial departure from prior widely supported scientific consensus. In a 2008 study, Victor Polyak examined caves near the Grand Canyon and placed their origins about 17 million years ago. The study, which was published in the journal Science in 2008, used uranium lead dating to analyze calcite deposits found on the walls of 9 caves throughout the canyon. In another 2008 study, Rebecca Flowers reported on appetite heat thermochronometry results suggesting that parts of the Grand Canyon had reached a depth near to the modern depth around 20 million years ago. In a subsequent study published in the journal Science in 2012, she suggested that the western part of the Grand Canyon could be as old as 70 million years. The emerging scientific consensus is that the canyon is made up of multiple segments which formed at different times and eventually connected to become the waterway now traversed by the Colorado River. Of the 3 central segments, the hurricane was formed 70 million years ago, and the eastern Grand Canyon was cut 25 million years ago. In contrast, the Marble Canyon and westernmost Grand Canyon segments at the ends of the canyon were carved in the last 5 to 6 million years. The major geologic exposures in the Grand Canyon range in age from the 2 billion-year-old Vishnu schist at the bottom of the inner gorge to the 270-million-year-old Kaibab limestone on the rim. There is a gap of about a billion years between 1.75 billion and 1.25 billion years ago. This large unconformity indicates a long period for which no deposits are present. Then, between 1.25 billion and 730 million years ago, intermittent sediments began to form the Grand Canyon supergroup. Many of the formations were deposited in warm shallow seas, near-shore environments such as beaches and swamps as the seashore repeatedly advanced and retreated over the edge of a proto-North America. Major exceptions include the Permian Coconino sandstone, which contains abundant geological evidence of Aeolian sand dune deposition. Several parts of the Supai group also were deposited in non-marine environments. The great depth of the Grand Canyon, and especially the height of its strata, can be attributed to 5,000, 10,000 feet, 1,500, 3,000 meters of uplift of the Colorado Plateau, starting about 65 million years ago during the Laramide orogeny. This uplift has steepened the stream gradient of the Colorado River and its tributaries, which in turn has increased their speed and thus their ability to cut through rock. See the elevation summary of the Colorado River for present conditions. Weather conditions during the ice ages also increased the amount of water in the Colorado River drainage system. The ancestral Colorado River responded by cutting its channel faster and deeper. Ages also increased the amount of water in the Colorado. Weather conditions during the ice ages also increased the amount of water in the Colorado River drainage system. The ancestral Colorado River responded by cutting its channel faster and deeper. The base level and course of the Colorado River, or its ancestral equivalent, changed 5.3 million years ago when the Gulf of California opened and lowered the river's base level its lowest point. This increased the rate of erosion and cut nearly all of the Grand Canyon's current depth by 1.2 million years ago. The terraced walls of the canyon were created by differential erosion. Between 100,000 and 3 million years ago, volcanic activity deposited ash and lava over the area, which at times completely obstructed the river. These volcanic rocks are the youngest in the canyon. Hydrology. Groundwater flow in the Grand Canyon region is an active area of study. Groundwater forms when rain soaks down into the earth and reaches the water table. The composition of the earth in a given area determines its permeability, the ease with which water flows through it. Sand is more permeable than clay. Less permeable rock layers composed of clay can block the passage of water and are known as aquithards. More permeable areas of rock that hold and transport groundwater underground are known as aquifers. An area of water bounded by 2 aquithards is called a confined aquifer, while water below the surface and above an aquithard is called an unconfined aquifer. The different geologic levels of the Grand Canyon have created 2 major aquifers where groundwater collects. The higher sea aquifer is an unconfined aquifer. It collects groundwater that seeps through the Kaibab and Toroep formations into the Coconino sandstone. Below it, the Permian Hermit Formation and Supai Group provide a dense barrier. Groundwater from the sea aquifer can flow laterally, appearing as seeps along the canyon walls at the base of the Coconino sandstone, but can also descend vertically through fault zones to recharge the underlying confined R aquifer. The R aquifer, also known as the Red Wall Nwaavjo Aquifer, is a karst aquifer. It involves an area of substantial fracturing through the Red Wall limestone, Temple Butte Formation and Cambrian Nwaavjo limestone of the Tonto Group. 5 individual systems flow through the R aquifer and compose the regional groundwater flow system, which drains into the Grand Canyon, Kaibab, Uinkaratkanab, Marble Shinumo, Cataract, and Blue Spring. The flow of groundwater in the Grand Canyon region is influenced in multiple ways by geologic faults and folds. Discharge from the R aquifer appears as springs and seeps in both the Grand Canyon and tributary canyons. Springs discharge to the Grand Canyon in areas of lower Paleozoic carbonates and are associated with geologic faults and fractures. Fractures are believed to provide dominant pathways both for vertical circulation in the Paleozoic section and for lateral collection and transport of water to springs deep in the canyons. The largest springs discharge from the R aquifer. A smaller number of springs discharge at lower rates from the sea aquifer. Much of the water that could potentially recharge the aquifers is likely released as springs rather than reaching the aquifers. Studies of the chemical composition of groundwater at sites across the Grand Canyon region indicate that groundwater contains a fraction of modern water post-1950, and that many springs have a mix of modern water and older groundwater. Estimated mean ages for South Rim groundwater range from 6 years old San Francisco peaks to nearly 20,000 years old. Groundwater age in the South Rim groundwater system also correlates to longitude, with age increasing from east to west from Red Canyon to Boucher Springs. Surprisingly, the Canyon Mine Observation Well is more similar to Red Wall Nwaavjo Aquifer Well's R aquifer than to the Coconino Sea Aquifer. This suggests the possibility of a hydrologic connection or similar recharge sources for that hydrologic position. Old groundwater from Havasupai well may have a similar source to the Havasu spring upwelling from the Red Wall Nwaavjo Aquifer. Sites with younger estimated mean ages tend to be associated with the unconfined Coconino Aquifer. They may recharge quickly as a result of snowmelt, runoff and local precipitation. It is likely that the deeper confined R aquifer relies primarily on snowmelt from the San Francisco peaks to recharge. Other research has tried to relate groundwater flow paths to possible levels of risk for contamination and identify vulnerability regions for the underlying aquifers. Almost half of the Kaibab Plateau's surface was associated with high to very high vulnerability of the unconfined Coconino Aquifer Sea Aquifer, while about a fifth of the Kaibab Plateau was estimated to be an area of high vulnerability for the Red Wall Nwaavjo Aquifer R aquifer. History. Native Americans. The ancestral Puebloans were a Native American culture centered on the present-day Four Corners area of the United States. They were the first people known to live in the Grand Canyon area. The cultural group has often been referred to in archaeology as the Anasi, although the term is not preferred by the modern Puebloan peoples. The word Anasi is Navajo for enemy ancestors or alien ancestors. Archaeologists still debate when this distinct culture emerged. The current consensus, based on terminology defined by the PICO's classification, suggests their emergence was around 1200 during the Basket Maker II era. Beginning with the earliest explorations and excavations, researchers have believed that the ancestral Puebloans are ancestors of the modern Pueblo peoples. In addition to the ancestral Puebloans, a number of distinct cultures have inhabited the Grand Canyon area. The Kohonina lived to the west of the Grand Canyon, between 500 and 1200. The Kohonina were ancestors of the Yuman, Havasupai, and Hualapai peoples who inhabit the area today. The Singua were a cultural group occupying an area to the southeast of the Grand Canyon, between the Little Colorado River and the Salt River, between approximately 500 and 1425. The Singua may have been ancestors of several Hopi clans. By the time of the arrival of Europeans in the 16th century, newer cultures had evolved. The Hualapai inhabit a 100-mile (160 kilometers) stretch along the pine-clad southern side of the Grand Canyon. The Havasupai have been living in the area near Cataract Canyon since the beginning of the 13th century, occupying an area the size of Delaware. The Southern Paiutes live in what is now southern Utah and northern Arizona. The Navajo, or Dain, live in a wide area stretching from the San Francisco Peaks eastwards towards the Four Corners. Archaeological and linguistic evidence suggests the Navajo descended from the Athabascan people near Great Slave Lake, Canada, who migrated after the 11th century. In the mythology of some Third Mesa Hopi communities, the Grand Canyon was the location humankind arose out of the Third World from a CPPU. European arrival and settlement. Spanish explorers. In September 1540, under orders from the conquistador Francisco Vázquez de Coronado to search for the fabled 7 cities of Cibola, Captain Garcia López de Cardenas, along with Hopi guides and a small group of Spanish soldiers, traveled to the south rim of the Grand Canyon between Desert View and Moran Point. Pablo de Melgrosa, Juan Galras, and a third soldier descended some 1/3 of the way into the canyon until they were forced to return because of lack of water. In their report, they noted that some of the rocks in the canyon were bigger than the Great Tower of Seville, Giralda. It is speculated that their Hopi guides likely knew routes to the canyon floor, but may have been reluctant to lead the Spanish to the river. No Europeans visited the canyon again for more than 200 years. Fathers Francisco Atanasio Dominguez and Silvestre Village de Escalante were two Spanish priests who, with a group of Spanish soldiers, explored southern Utah and traveled along the north rim of the canyon in Glen and Marble Canyons in search of a route from Santa Fe to California in 1776. They eventually found a crossing, formerly known as the Crossing of the Fathers, that today lies under Lake Powell. Also in 1776, Fray Francisco Garces, a Franciscan missionary, spent a week near Havasupai unsuccessfully attempting to convert a band of Native Americans to Christianity. He described the canyon as profound. American exploration. James Ohio Patty, along with a group of American trappers and mountain men, may have been the next European to reach the canyon in 1826. Jacob Hamblin, a Mormon missionary, was sent by Brigham Young in the 1850s to locate suitable river crossing sites in the canyon. Building good relations with local Hualapai and white settlers, he reached the Crossing of the Fathers, crossed the location that would become Lee's Ferry on a raft in 1858 and Pierce Ferry, later operated by and named for Harrison Pierce. He also acted as an advisor to John Wesley Powell before his second expedition to the Grand Canyon, serving as a diplomat between Powell and the local native tribes to ensure the safety of his party. In 1857, Edward Fitzgerald Beale was superintendent of an expedition to survey a wagon road along the 35th parallel from Fort Defiance, Arizona to the Colorado River. He led a small party of men in search of water on the Coconino Plateau near the canyon's south rim. On 19 September, near present-day National Canyon, they came upon what May Humphreys Stacy described in his journal as a wonderful canyon, 4,000 feet deep. Everybody in the party admitted that he never before saw anything to match or equal this astonishing natural curiosity. Also in 1857, the U.S. War Department asked Lieutenant Joseph Ives to lead an expedition to assess the feasibility of an upriver navigation from the Gulf of California. On 31 December 1857, Ives embarked from the mouth of the Colorado in the stern-wheeler steamboat Explorer. His party reached the lower end of Black Canyon on 8 March 1858, then continued on by rowboat past the mouth of the Virgin River after the Explorer struck a rock. Ives led his party east into the canyon. They may have been the first Europeans to travel the Diamond Creek drainage. In his report upon the Colorado River of the West to the Senate in 1861, Ives states that the marvelous story of Cardenas, that had formed for so long a time the only record concerning this rather mythical locality, was rather magnified than detracted from by the accounts of 1 or 2 trappers who professed to have seen the canyon. According to the San Francisco Herald, In a series of articles run in 1853, Captain Joseph R. Walker in January 1851 with his nephew James T. Walker and 6 men, traveled up the Colorado River to a point where it joined the Virgin River and continued east into Arizona. Traveling along the Grand Canyon and making short exploratory side trips along the way. Walker is reported to have said he wanted to visit the Moki Hopi Indians, who he had met briefly before and found exceptionally interesting. In 1858, John Strom Newberry became probably the first geologist to visit the Grand Canyon. In 1869, Major John Wesley Powell set out to explore the Colorado River and the Grand Canyon in the first expedition down the canyon. Powell ordered a shipwright to build 4 reinforced white-wall rowboats from Chicago and had them shipped west on the newly completed Continental Railroad. He hired 9 men, including his brother Walter, and collected provisions for 10 months. They set out from Green River, Wyoming, on 24th May. On 7th June, they lost one of their boats, won 3 of their food, and other badly needed supplies. As a result, the team eventually had to subsist on starvation rations. Passing through a series of dangerous rapids, the group passed down the Green River, reaching its confluence with the Colorado River, near present-day Moab, Utah, on 17th July. Continuing on down the Colorado River, the party encountered more rapids and falls. On 28 August 1869, faced with what some felt to be impassable rapids, 3 men left the expedition on foot in an attempt to reach a settlement 75 miles 121 kilometers away. Ironically, the remaining members went safely through the rapids on 29 August 1869, while Seneca Howland, Ormel Howland, and William H. Dunn were murdered. The area through which the 3 men traveled was marked by tensions between farming and hunting Shivets and incoming Mormon settlers. Which group was responsible for killing the 3 men has been hotly debated. Powell himself visited the area the following year and was told that the Shivets had mistakenly killed the men, believing them to be prospectors who had murdered an Indian woman. He chose to smoke a peace pipe with them. Powell went on to become the first director of the U.S. Bureau of Ethnology of the Smithsonian Institution 1879-1902 and the second director of the U.S. Geological Survey 1881-1894. He was the first to use the term Grand Canyon. In 1871, previously it had been called the Big Canyon. In 1889, Frank M. Brown wanted to build a railroad along the Colorado River to carry coal. He, his chief engineer Robert Brewster Stanton, and 14 others started to explore the Grand Canyon in poorly designed cedar wood boats with no life preservers. Brown drowned in an accident near Marble Canyon. Stanton made new boats and proceeded to explore the Colorado all of the way to the Gulf of California. The Grand Canyon became an official national monument in 1908 and a national park in 1919.